With a global footprint of more than 1 million square feet across the U.S. and Asia-Pacific region, Equinix's IBX centers serve as core hubs for critical IP networks and Internet operations worldwide. Margie Backhaus, Equinix Chief Business Officer, joins us today to give us some insight on the company. Hi Margie, great to have you here. Now first off, hosting and colocation prices are steadily moving upward after years of being relatively stagnant. What do you think is driving that?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. Probably the most simple one, which I think is completely understandable, is supply and demand. So as you continue to get many less centers in really key markets that are capable of handling today's power requirements that customers have, the infrastructure and security requirements customer has, you definitely have a shrinking supply of data centers that can handle those kind of customer requirements. At the same time, you definitely see demand continue to soar. So as those two things come together, you're definitely seeing prices rise. That is in addition to the natural things we all see as it relates to energy costs and all of those things that are kind of naturally inherent in colocation. But I think the change in supply and demand and the new requirements from customers are definitely driving what we've seen in terms of pricing stabilization and things definitely starting to inch up.
So where does Equinix stand in the colocation versus managed services spectrum? Which direction do you see the company moving toward?
Yeah, I think one of the great successes of Equinix has been that we've been really focused on providing colocation services. And what that means for us, that means space, power, and peering services. And that's really what the company's been about since the beginning of the company, and it's what has really made us successful. So, you know, as we hear about a lot of hosting companies moving up the value-added stack and providing a lot more services, those are services you won't see from Equinix. We feel that we need to be doing and focused on what we do best, which is basically colocation services. As a result, that draws a pretty unique customer to us. That draws a very sophisticated customer who does all of their own infrastructure operations. They do their own monitoring, their own storage, their own security services. And because we provide the infrastructure that allows them to control their own operations, that's a very natural customer for us. So customer who naturally comes to Equinix is a customer who's typically not buying those services anyways. They're doing them internally for their own uses.
Well, what's creating the demand that's pushing Equinix to aggressively acquire and expand new facilities? And how is this different from just a few years ago?
Yeah, it's been a really interesting transformation over a couple of years in terms of the customer sets we see, as well as kind of what the demand is out there. I think primarily what we're seeing is, we've seen a tremendous amount of growth in enterprise and government. So that's been really driving a significant amount of growth. And what's been interesting to us is over the past, 6 or 7 even quarters, 65% of our new business in a quarter, so the new customers that are coming into Equinix, are actually customers who are either outsourcing for the first time or are putting new applications on the web. So what this means is a lot of the demand we are getting is a disproportionate share of customers who are outsourcing for the very first time. So that what this tells you, there's a lot of market growth inherent. The other thing that we see is a very large proportion of our business comes from our current base. So over 50% of our customers are ordering new services every quarter, and it's really been a big growth area for us. So where many years ago you would see kind of a .com kind of customer, today you see a lot of big enterprises who are moving applications onto the web, doing much more interesting things, and as a result coming out of their own data centers and into an outsourced environment.
Interesting. Well, what kind of impact has the hurricane season had on Equinix's facilities? Has it prompted any changes in your disaster recovery procedures?
Yeah, actually, we don't have any data centers in any of the hurricane-affected regions. Dallas is probably the closest one. So I think what it has created, however, is kind of a renewed focus on the part of enterprises and the content companies to definitely have a very good plan in place for disaster recovery and making sure that all of your eggs aren't in one basket in one particular region. So I think that drives kind of a new level of demand as it relates to those companies looking for new alternatives in other areas of the country. So that's really kind of what we've seen as a result of it.
Great. Thanks for joining us today, Margie. It was great getting to chat with you.